For the longest of while, I genuinely felt I did not deserve to be in the church. I felt like I wasn't dressing the right way. I wasn't living the right way. I felt like I was being judged by what people see of me or the appearances rather than what was in my heart. I just felt like I needed to be perfect or I needed to be a certain type of way before I made it back to the church. And it actually did not help that I was actually getting some messages from teachers or people that knew me in my school, like my previous life, or rather my life earlier on, and they were like, oh, this is not the person that I used to know. And I feel like that pressure just kind of made me feel like, okay, even if I'm going to the physical church, maybe what are people saying of me? And that led me farther and farther and farther away from the church. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you stumbled across this video, maybe you're having doubts on your faith, or maybe you're actually having doubts on your identity in Christ, or maybe you're just like me that strayed away from the church. This is where I tell you I am finally back in the physical church, and it's been a month now. So I'm actually sharing this tip for whoever is currently going through something like this, and maybe you want to hear it from somebody else's perspective. So without wasting much time, let's get straight into this video. I'm going to give a little background details. I am actually Nigerian, and for a typical Nigerian Christian home, when you grow up, you're born in the church. And what do I mean by that? You basically wake up every Sunday, the family, everybody dresses up, they take you guys go to the church. If you're fasting, you all have to fast. There's nothing like, oh, I want to sleep more, I want to do this. No, it's Sunday, you're meant to be in the church. However, it gets to a certain point in time when you get old, you start growing and you leave home. It's no longer your parents' fate, but that of yours. You have to then decide the path you want to go in. And I don't know about you, but for me, I left home at the age of 17. So at the age of 17, I had to start navigating that path. I started prioritizing my academics over my church, over my spiritual life. I would basically see Sundays as the day for me to rest in. I'm like, oh, I actually was in school from Monday to Friday. Monday is another day. I have to be up by 8 a.m. How would I still wake up by 8 a.m. on Sunday to still go to church? Doesn't make sense to me. And sometimes I started sleeping through my alarms, and some days I would show up and some days I would not. However, I was still trying to, obviously an adolescent or you're a young adult and you're still trying to just like figure out your path. I was in the Caribbean and I was exploring. There are certain dresses and things like that, and cultural difference. So what is accepted in Grenada or in the Caribbean, what is overlooked and seen as nothing, in Nigeria, it's so much off. It's a big deal. So for me, I was like, the culture was seeping into me, and I was just, it didn't really seem anything to me. It was kind of like, I was still being myself, trying to live life right, not impinge on anybody else or like things like that, just being myself. Then I started getting messages from my high school teachers, like maybe I'll post a picture and they'll be like, oh, like, Sharon, why is your arm open? If these people are thinking this of me, does it mean like, maybe people in the church are feeling that way of me? Because I went to a Deeper Life high school also. Back then, obviously you have to like wear the uniform, things like that. I did play by the books, and I really did play by the books. When I mean that, I was actually the head girl in my school then, and I was really close to teachers. I loved associating with them. So when I also left school, some of these teachers found my socials, and if I post a photo or something, they will comment in my DMs like, oh, maybe why is my arm too open, or why is this, why is that? And it just got to a point where I started feeling overwhelmed, and I was like, you know what, I'm literally not doing this right. Maybe I should take a while off to just work on myself. Like, I feel this was not being accepted and I was just being judged. And I was like, okay, if these people are judging me in this certain type of way, then what do people in the church say of me? And also then, obviously you're young into campus parties, things like that. I would also feel so guilty, like when I go out the next day and I have to be in church, and I'm just like, God, like, what am I doing? I don't know if you're watching this video and you're currently struggling with that. I feel like something that recently resonated with me was the fact of when I was getting some judgmental messages and things like that. I told myself, there's a way you would actually correct someone, and you correct somebody with love, without judgment, and people could actually just see and be like, damn, I like this person's life. I could see Christ, and I want to also emulate what they are putting out. Even in the Bible, it was clearly written, right? Like, I think it was the prostitute that came, and Jesus did not neglect her. Or let me just put it in broadman term. It's literally written there, in as much as we are still sinners, Christ loved us, Christ died for us. And that verse kept ringing in my head. At a certain time, I just completely strayed. I was still talking to God, I was still doing my prayers, because at the end of the day, I was alone in Grenada. Like, I always tell people this. My dad dropped me in Grenada and left. I didn't have no family in Grenada. I was fortunate and blessed by God to have been able to meet so much amazing people along my path that ended up becoming family and people I could call. But then it was just me and God, literally. So whenever I would get into situations, I would just run to Him. But then when there were no situations, I would not run to Him, which was absolutely so wrong. I feel like it got to a point in time, because I did prioritize, like I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, I did prioritize my academics over my faith, my spiritual life, and things like that. And it got to a point in time where I started facing so much challenges. Listen, I started facing so much, and that was a turning point for me. I started by taking small steps. I would just wake up every morning and play 30 minutes worship or stuff like that to just help calm me down. And I really wanted to go back to the church, but I still had this whole mental cloud over my head. I remember having this conversation with someone close to me who was always also in the church, and sometimes I just tell them, like, let me go to church, or let's go to church. We ended up going to church and it was nice, but I asked them one day, why did you change? Like, why did you leave the church? And they basically said the same thing. They were like, oh, they had changed some certain parts of their life, and they showed up in the church and they got so much judgmental eyes or so much judgmental talks and sayings. And I feel like, cool as our values may not align with some other values, or some values that we as Christians are meant to have, but that doesn't call us to actually judge people. It actually even makes us show them love and kind of like subtly, or I don't know if I say that word correctly, just subtly drop advices. Like the time or the period of time where I wasn't even steady with my church, my mom would always send me like messages. She would always send me scriptures like, hey my baby, or hey my daughter, this is the verse, or this is that. And it got to a point in time, even I was like, damn, I'm always seeing the scriptures, like I want to do better. And I kept praying to God. I was like, listen, God, I am gonna start with baby steps by obviously listening to music and things like that, and just waiting for the time where it will be right. Now I moved to LA, and I told my mom, just after so much, because I feel like, I don't know if God did it that way, but I feel like I went through so much challenges that also just made me, like, it strengthened my faith in God. And every time I would get through something, I would be like, damn, like it was so evident that it was the handwork of God. Like, this was not my grace or my mother's faith, it was literally God's handwork. And I would feel like, damn, I'm here doing something bad. I'm here doing, like, maybe I'm just away from the church, I'm away from the community, but God is still coming through for me. And just the thought of that made me realize, like, I want to go back to Him in full-fledged form. Like, even if I'm not perfect, He's still coming through for me. Like, I want to at least put in that effort. And I feel like that is what we, like, even the community, people in church, I feel like that is what is meant to be happening. Like, you're not gonna make any difference by seeing someone and just saying a bad word or judging them, because at the end of the day, we are all still made of the flesh. But trust me, you're gonna make a huge ton of difference where you see someone or you see them going in a path that doesn't really align, and you call them, you show them love, and you advise them with love and with care. That's listen, that changes, like that takes a really big change. It kind of just makes the person want to do better, like want to become the best version of themselves. So I told my mom actually 3 weeks ago, I was like, listen, I'm ready to go back to the church. The only issue now I had was transportation, because I also just moved to Los Angeles, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna be going to the church, because all the physical church that was close to me, it was so far. I'm like, damn, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. But how funny was it that I entered the Uber to go to the hospital, which is like not that far from me, and I was in the Uber and I basically just said something like, when you're having just random chit chat with strangers or people, and you mentioned something, and I was just like, it's God. Oh. And they're like, am I a Christian? And I was like, yes. And they're like, what church do I attend? And I told them, basically, I'm yet to find a church. I'm yet to find a community. I just moved to Los Angeles not too long ago. And basically, they invited me to their church. They were like, they're actually going to come to pick me from my house and drop me back, and if I do like the community, I'm more than welcome to join it. I was like, hey, this is crazy, because I was just having the conversation as I did with my mother yesterday and telling her, mommy, I'm ready to go back to the church, but the only thing that is stopping me is transportation. And the next day, God literally brought it to my doorstep. I'm like, okay, Sharon, I have no excuse. I need to go back. So I told them yes. I waited. Sunday came, they actually did come, they picked me up, and when I went to the church, I would not even lie, it just felt so welcoming. I remember I did make a statement to one of the officials. I was like, there is so much love. You just know when you could feel the energy in a place. I was like, there's so much love in this church. I could literally feel it. Thanksgiving was a week, 2 weeks ago from me making this video, but I was also invited to spend Thanksgiving with a family that I met in the church. I've not been up to 2 months in the church, but you could just see so much love, community, and unity. And I feel like that is how it's meant to be. I know I'm not perfect. I'm very far from it. Even me making this video, I still have my journey, or I'm still currently on my journey with him. But I think I've come to the realization that I do not need to be perfect to actually serve him in truth and in spirit, because at the end of the day, we're made of flesh, and we are also prone to do certain things. And that's why we need the help of the Holy Spirit to be like, okay, please guide me through this path, because we're trying on our own, but we also need him to kind of like come through and guide us and direct us. So if you're watching this video and you're basically having doubts, or you're basically feeling like, maybe you do certain things that obviously are not the way of the Lord, and you're feeling like, I'm gonna be judged if I go to the church, I want you to realize, go to the church. At the end of the day, you're going to the church, yes, to have that community, but your relationship with God is what truly matters. Your relationship with him, it's above anything else. And the more you have that community, because you go to the church, you listen to the word, you keep talking to him, he's gonna keep directing you. Like, this is something you really can't do on your own, because for the longest of while, I was waiting to be perfect, to just be that really right person. And listen, I just realized I really couldn't do it by myself. I really couldn't. And I'm making this video for you now. So if you're questioning and you're feeling like, maybe you have to be perfect, you don't need to be perfect to actually come back, because it's literally written there. Like I said earlier on, even in as much as we were sinners, Christ died for us. So guys, I hope this video helped. And if you're also watching this video and you're among, or you have someone that's close to you that maybe you feel their way is not aligning, do not judge them. Do not judge them, do not cast a stone, but rather keep loving them and keep giving them that advice when is the right time, the community will find them or God will find them. But that is not your place to judge. That is not your place to make anybody feel bad. Advice with love, advice with care. Yes, if you stay to the end of this video, or if I said something in this video that resonated with you or helped you in any way, be free to give this video a thumbs up. Don't make this the last time of you seeing my face, and I hope I'll catch you in my next video. Bye guys.